Hi everyone, thank you for staying tuned to this series of interviews in which I will be interviewing different people's perspectives with regards to this pandemic COVID-19 period. Now I'll be adding on few different elements because through this pandemic COVID-19 has turned our lives upside down, yet it has taught us nothing but gratefulness. No doubt there will be effects from this pandemic, and such effects are shifting the whole business model into a paradigm shift. Companies right now are discussing how to best assimilate employees back to work. Employee engagements will be even more dynamic. So today we are going to explore an area of employee engagement that is gaining popularity as it brings immense benefits not just company as a whole, but brings satisfaction to employees in many levels and towards the society. And that is corporate volunteering and its impact on employee engagement. So today we have very much the pleasure to invite an expert in this area, Mrs. Ratna Nair, an adjunct lecturer with JCU since 2013 on financial accounting, and she's doing right now her PhD. Prior to that, she's also actually an internal auditor with UOB. Thank you, Mrs. Nair, for accepting my interview.
Thank you, Mavis. Thank you for inviting me and granting me this opportunity to share my thoughts on today's topic of discussion.
Now, Mrs. Nair, could you explain more about the link between corporate volunteerism and corporate social responsibility?
Yes. So corporate social responsibility, or short CSR, is basically a concept. It's also a phenomenon where companies actually integrate their social and the environmental concerns into their business operations and in the interactions with all their stakeholders, and it's on a voluntary basis. So CSR you might consider it as something, but it's not always the same thing to everybody. So that's why it's mostly driven by your stakeholders. So we see that growing in many organizations, in many industries all over the world. And businesses do take it very seriously because it's investments as well. The investments of not only their resources, but also the social capital, that means the employees, who are actually the CSR ambassadors. So in that realm of CSR is corporate volunteerism. It's more what we call employer-sponsored volunteerism as well. It is much more strategic, it is planned, and in layman's term, it's the business organizations' responses to all these community, institutional, normative pressures to maintain as a reputation as a good corporate citizen. So it emphasizes on the employees' efforts to donate their time, their skills to any of these social causes.
I see. Hearing from you the link, how does corporate social volunteering matters to employees in a company?
Now, when we talk about motivating our employees into corporate social responsibility or corporate volunteering, the most important thing you have to understand that people are not the same. You and I will have different sort of value orientations about our CSR. Some of us are looking for more intrinsic values like helping others, being authentic, or higher good. Then there are others who are also interested in more extrinsic value. What is in it for me? What's the career development? What's my promotion like? What's my networking going to be like? So we've all got our own volunteering preferences. All right, and so there is this need for value congruence, which means to say that some highly individualistic people, well, they would not be following the organizational norms. They want to do something that is their own. They don't have any belief in what the organization CSR is about. So that would be what we call symbolic CSR. So symbolic CSR is what we call greenwashing, which some of these highly individualistic people will not catch up with them. And then if you talk about norms, well, there are some people who are more collectivist. That means they follow what their peers do. So we have to know about the differences before actually considering how do we motivate our employees. So in corporate volunteerism, first thing important is that it's time, not just the financial considerations. So let's say, for example, if I'm talking about an employee, compare an employee writing a check for, let's say, a soup kitchen rather than an employee involved in the kitchen or involved in the delivery of the cooked food. That is corporate volunteerism. So what's the point of all this? Well, it's a test of their skills. It's learning what sort of value they get out of this. These are the kind of motivations that we're looking at. What sort of ideas that these employees can bring and also therefore apply to the regular work. So the novelty of the place, the novelty of the situation, that will actually increase their skills, maybe PR skills, maybe management skills, leadership skills, even talking skills and communication skills. All these things they are going to learn and bring it with them to their regular work. So as I say, it's a planned activity. So most corporate volunteerism would actually be not spontaneous, not a one-time thing. It is ongoing. There should be value addedness coming from it, just like what Porter has talked about. So we're looking at these kind of issues when we talk about motivating our employees.
Thank you. There's so much talk about how corporate volunteerisms can help satisfy and engage, employees with the company, giving them a sense of purpose and meaning. So in your research, how do you think we can improve, employee engagements through corporate social volunteerism?
Improving the employee engagement, well, there are many different ways of looking at it. I would look at it more in terms of what is the value coming from the employee? What is the value that is bringing to? So we look at task significance. So task significance is basically involuntarism that they do. They're looking for their purpose and how actually it fits. So when we talk about value congruism, it also leads to what we call meaningfulness, the sense of purpose, the sense of who they are and of their wider lives. Task significance and job crafting would be two of those tools that we can actually improve engagement from social or corporate volunteerism. What they learn, how did they understand about the purpose of their organization's volunteerism, whether their job fits with the organization's broader purposes. And even the tasks, the simple tasks that they do, how does that actually contribute to the organization as a whole? This is very, very important. There's a famous story where President John F. Kennedy went into the NASA Space Center and he saw this janitor walking around with a broom and he asked him, "What's he doing?" And the janitor was simply saying, "I'm helping a man put a man on the moon." So this is how people basically are seeing themselves in a bigger purpose than just doing normal tasks. In volunteerism, this can also be applied. A sense of purpose, a sense of meaningfulness through their task significance and their job crafting. And if job crafting, you were to ask what that is, it is basically a self-initiating purpose employee takes, taking on additional tasks, changing the way the task is being performed, reducing the scope of their job, even removing hindrances, and even adjusting the relational boundaries that they're working in. So these are all initiated by the individual themselves, and that would carry them with them towards their job engagement as well. And finally, they may ask, what is the purpose of task significance and job crafting? They become more committed. And as we know, the more the committed you are, the more the organization identity will be there. This leads to better engagement, reducing turnover as well.
That is very cool. In what ways do you think you can motivate our employees in corporate volunteering?
The motivation part really from understanding employees, their perceptions of what is volunteerism. What are their views? What do they want to get out of it as well? So all this, it's not something about job satisfaction. Job satisfaction is very different from job engagement. So engagement is really more holistic, which means you have to look at many things, just not the task alone that the employee is involved in, what he's learning from that task, also the perceived organizational support that the organization can give. When an employee feels that he's getting an organizational support, he'll also have the feeling that, oh, my organization values me. And of course, there's also that very intrinsic matter, which is your evaluation of yourself. And employees would evaluate themselves, which we call self-evaluation. Am I confident? Am I willing? Am I able? All these things are what we need to assess, and that will help in motivating our employees.
Yeah. So do you think actually leadership in this whole corporate volunteerism actually plays a major role in motivating our employees?
Definitely. Management plays a very significant role. Like I said, there's a perceived organizational support from the employee side. They must feel that they're being supported, and the support can come from many angles. So as a division manager, he should be able to know which sort of employees, what the skills levels they are at, what sort of needs they need, and how will they improve. So it's an ongoing thing. And therefore, I would definitely say that leadership is a very important thing.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Nair. Gratefulness to life, giving back to community brings satisfaction and values in multiple levels. To the leadership management of companies, perhaps this is something that you can relook to retain employees and attract the up and coming pool of millennials. To the individuals, this can be one of the topics to explore during your interviews, if this is something you are pursuing. Remember, many social projects very much requires corporate assistance, and volunteering can be fulfilling at companies level. It's just how you perceive it. Once again, thank you, Mrs. Nair, for this interview. Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mavis. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode. Take care, stay safe, and well.